Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm bringing you my weekly wrap-up for the week ending March 29th. I completed a couple of things this week, which were wrapping up some March events, and I'm still in the middle of a couple of things, and I'll also be talking about a few things that I'm looking forward to. First, I finished this week Jack McDevitt's The Engines of God. This is a novel that I was reading with the new Futurian Fellowship. This is a group of readers where we're reading more contemporary science fiction. This book was published in the 1990s, in 1994, but we're reading things from the 90s, the early 2000s, the 2020s, right up to very, very contemporary science fiction. And this is the first book that we are reading together. This novel features main character Priscilla Hutchins, but she's known as Hutch. This book has been described as an archaeological mystery, and really that is the most interesting part of it. Those sections that deal with archaeology in space. There is a crew that we're following in this novel from the Academy, and they have discovered they have discovered throughout several planets and moons some monuments that were left behind, they believe, by a species that is most likely now extinct. There is an abandoned temple that is found on the planet of Quaraqua. I think that's how you say it. And there's an archaeological dig that has been going on there actually for a couple of decades when the novel opens. This excavation site is being jeopardized, though, by a company that is performing a terraforming project where they are planning, basically, I think the whole temple is going to be wiped out. The plan is to get this planet in a situation where it would be suitable for human life, because the Earth's ecology has been damaged beyond hope. So the idea is that human beings can be moved to this planet. So the topic of an archaeological discovery in space is really interesting, and there are several of them in the course of the novel. And some of the missions that are described, some of them were very exciting. What I really struggled with in this novel was McDevitt's characterization. I didn't feel like any of the characters, and there are a number of them that we're following. I didn't think that any of them were really well developed and distinguished from each other, and I just really thought that some of the dialogue was really painful and didn't do much to help to characterize the people speaking the dialogue. Kudos to McDevitt for including female characters, and there are more than one. It's not just Hutch. She's not the only female character. There are several who have very important roles in this novel, and I think that is to his credit, to McDevitt's credit, that in 1994, he wrote, a science fiction novel featuring female characters, several female characters. But the way that he characterizes them, and at times was just painful to read. I absolutely believe that, male writers can describe females effectively. It didn't happen in this book. Some of the instances where one female character is talking about another female character, it's not language that a woman would use to describe another woman. Perhaps a man might describe a woman in this way, but it didn't sound authentic. The voices of the women didn't sound authentic. I'm just going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. There's a scene relatively early in the novel where Hutch, who is our main female protagonist, pulls up on her computer an image of another female character named Melanie Truscott that she's about to meet. So it says here, Hutch brought up Truscott's image. She was tall, with a high forehead and laser eyes, dark brown hair, a lush complexion. She might still be described as attractive, but she had somewhere acquired a hard edge. Accustomed to command, nevertheless, she looked like a woman who knew how to have a good time. More significant, Hutch could see no give in her. I don't hear a woman describing another woman in that way. There's another instance where one female character offers to lend some of her clothing to another female character. I'm just going to read this because I laughed out loud when I read this. So this is Maggie, who's talking to Janet. Maggie took a long, deep breath. "Let's go," she said, turning toward Janet. "You're close to my size. A little hefty, maybe. But if we take your stuff in a bit, we should do fine, right?" "You're close to my size. A little hefty, maybe. But if we take your stuff in a bit, we should do fine, right?" I don't know. That just, I can't hear a woman saying that to another woman. But in other places, and this was even more disturbing, characters are identified exclusively by their race, long before we find out a name. And that was very, very jarring. In one instance, a man is referred to, a character is referred to as a tall, garrulous black. And then he's in the same scene compared to his colleague who is described as a taciturn Japanese. Not a Japanese man, not a black man, just a tall, garrulous black and a taciturn Japanese. And then they are repeatedly referred to not by their name or even by their position, but rather by their race. The Japanese looked up from his computer. It was very, very jarring. I know that this novel is dated, but it was written in 1994. We're not talking about something that was written in pre-civil rights, USA. I just couldn't get past some of these descriptions to see the overall value in this novel. I have heard actually that volume 2 in this series is better. Hopefully, the characterization gets to be a little bit better too. I don't see myself reading more of this series. We have a lot of other stuff that we're going to be reading with this group, and I think this one was enough for me. And life is too short. I also finished this week the second play for March that we're reading with Angelia's group, Endless Drama, and this was Paula Vogel's play, Indecent. This play was first published in 2015, but it is a play within a play. This describes the 1923 play by Sholem Asch, and that play was God of Vengeance. This was a play that Ash wrote, and it was a sensation in many places in Europe. And then it came to the United States, and it was performed on Broadway, still in 1923. And terrible things happened when that happened. God of Vengeance is a play that is set in a brothel that is run by a Jewish man who is attempting to raise his daughter, in a very religious and traditionally religious way. They live upstairs from a brothel. There is a love scene in the play between the daughter and another woman. This didn't raise any kind of questions or concerns when it was performed throughout Europe. When it came to Broadway, when it was performed on Broadway, there was deep concern that it would invite anti-Semitism among Christians. And so a local American rabbi actually leveled against the play charges of obscenity. And the producer and the entire cast of the play were all arrested and convicted of obscenity. Now, this is a true story. So Paula Vogel is telling the story of this play being written and being shut down, and all of the actors and actresses being convicted of obscenity, because it featured on stage a kiss between two women. It was deemed a threat to American morality. The play doesn't end with the obscenity conviction. The plot continues. Most of the actors go back to Europe, continue to perform. The play moves into the Holocaust, and it actually ends in the 1950s, where the playwright, who has actually remained in America, is now being investigated by the House Un-American Activities Committee. And at that point, he decides to leave the country and to return to go to England. So it's a play about censorship. It's a play about persecution. It is a play about anti-Semitism. It is a play that was... It's a play about a play written 100 years ago. It's about immigrants. It's about homophobia. It's about artistic censorship. And though this play was written and performed 10 years ago, clearly the issues and the themes that it's addressing are still very timely today. This is our final week of discussion in the Pineiro Project. Everyone, some people had finished A Little Luck a long time ago. Others are just finishing it this week. This is our last week of discussion of the whole novel. So I think we're discussing it through the weekend. People are still weighing in with their final thoughts. It's just been an incredibly powerful reading experience. I think everyone in the Pineiro Project has really just experienced great, or has taken great value from this experience of reading the full body of work by an author, or the full body that has been translated into English. There actually are more novels that we don't have access to yet. But I think everyone has found it to be an extraordinarily valuable experience to read these works together and to talk about them in a really deep way. We've just had this ongoing conversation over several months, and I think really important friendships have been formed as a result of moving through the body of work by Claudia Pineiro. And so we're trying to decide now what we're going to do next, whether that be another reading project of the works by an author, or whether we're just going to pick a novel here and there and read that together. We're talking about that now. We're probably going to take a break, probably going to take at least the month of April off, and then we're going to see where we want to go from here, because everyone wants to keep the group going in some way, shape, or form. I'm continuing to read my in-person book group novel, The Frozen River by Lawhon, and we will be discussing this in mid-April. So I'm not going to say too much about it now, but we'll be talking about it together as a group in about 2 weeks' time. This novel is historical fiction. It is based on the real life and diaries of Martha Ballard, who was a renowned 18th century midwife in Maine. Martha Ballard, when the novel opens, is summoned to examine the body of a man found in the frozen ice of the Kennebec River. Months earlier, Martha Ballard had documented the details of an alleged rape committed by two, supposedly highly respected men in the community. Well, one of these men is the dead man that she is now called in to examine. A local physician then arrives on the scene, and he attempts to undermine the conclusions that Martha Ballard makes about the corpse and about the man's death. Ballard then continues to investigate this death on her own. So I'll talk more about the novel in about 2 weeks after my group has had a chance to meet and talk about it. I am looking forward this week to starting my buddy read with my friend Lekden at Reading from the Depths. We're going to be reading Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Time, and we've both been looking forward to this for a really long time, and I'm excited that April is here, and we're going to be getting into this. I've heard only good things about this, and the new Futurian Fellowship is reading this book this month as well, which I really appreciate that they put this on the schedule for this month, knowing that Lekden and I had already chosen this for a buddy read. And then another book that I'm just starting that I wanted to talk about is a book that was recommended for me by my friend Ellen at Ellen Made Book Club. Ellen, when she reached her 1-year anniversary on BookTube, she made a delightful video in which she recommended some books for some booktubers, and one of the books that she recommended for me was a book that hadn't been published yet. It was just a book she had read about and thought that it sounded like something I would like, and that is Olivia Waite's Murder by Memory. And so I read about it and I thought that it also sounded really wonderful. And so I pre ordered it just based on Ellen's recommendation of it. And it just arrived this week. And this is a book that is described as charming and subtly subversive and as Becky Chambers meets Miss Marple. So, you can't go wrong. Becky Chambers, I love Becky Chambers, and I definitely love all of Agatha Christie's Miss Marple novels. So this sounds like Ellen got it just right, that this would be a perfect recommendation for me, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. So it's been a good week. It's been a good week overall. I hope that you're reading good things too. Maybe you'll drop me a note in the comments and let me know what you're reading or what you're looking forward to be reading in April. I would love to hear about that. So, as always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.